and welcome. I'm Jennifer Shlimovich, and I specialize in helping busy women simplify plant-based living so they can improve their health, save time, and feel supported, even if their family isn't on board. Here on my channel, you'll find insightful interviews with inspiring vegans and practical tips on a variety of plant-based topics. Whether you're just starting out or looking to deepen your journey, my mission is to be your supportive resource and guide. Click on the subscribe button if you would like to join me in living a healthier, more confident plant-based life. Today, my special guest is Sandra Nomoto, who is a book whisperer for authors with impact and hype woman for vegan leaders. Over the 10 years that she ran Conscious Public Relations, Inc., Women in Film and Television Vancouver awarded her the 2009 Volunteer of the Year Award. The company was the fourth public relations agency in Canada to earn B Corporation certification. And she contributed to the eWomen Network Vancouver, earning the Best Social Media and Community Engagement. Sandra has also authored 2 books, including the world's first vegan marketing book titled Vegan Marketing Success Stories in 2022. Sandra has also done a lot of speaking engagements, including at the Vancouver Vegan Festival, where she shared the stage with Genesis Butler, Chuck Carroll, and Dr. Michael Greger. In addition to all of this, Sandra co-hosts Veg Networking Canada, Canada's only vegan networking group. Welcome, Sandra.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. One small correction to the bio. Those folks were shared the stage with me at the Planted Expo in Vancouver, not
Oh,
the
I'm sorry
Vancouver
about
Vegan
that.
Festival. No problem. It's a lot, I know. But
I was
thank
like
you.
copying and pasting information, and so thank you for that correction. Sorry about that. Still, lots of fantastic things that you did, and I could read off a lot of them. So, anyway, I'm so excited to have you here. We've connected over a year ago, and you're someone who I really look up to. I think you're such an amazing and inspiring woman on so many
Thank
levels.
you.
And I feel like we're going to have a great conversation today. So thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with me.
Of course. It helps that we're recording on a holiday, so not too busy for us today.
Yes, exactly. So the first question I ask everyone is, what is your vegan story?
So my vegan story started when I saw the documentary Earthlings at the end of 2007. I didn't even know I was going to watch it. It was kind of
Mhm.
by accident. I got invited to the screening and it really impacted me deeply. And I knew that I wanted to be vegan someday, but I didn't kind of put this timeline on myself. So I started really low and slow. Cut out most meat except for chicken in the first year because I ate mostly chicken in terms of the animal products. And then I eliminated chicken the following year. And then for a good chunk of time, I was pescatarian. So still eating some seafood. I have never been a huge fan of seafood and eggs. So those weren't too hard to avoid. I would kind of just leave them on the weekends. Like, oh, if I'm at a restaurant, I'll pick the fish and chips because that's the tastiest.
Mhm.
But during the week, I would yeah, pretty much learn to cook vegetarian or vegan dishes. So it wasn't until, yeah, my husband and I went on our honeymoon to New York City in 2017. And we ate at Iron Chef Morimoto's restaurant, and I had what I call the best seafood meal of my life. And I told myself it's not going to get any better than this. So, goodbye seafood. So that was the last seafood meal. And then from there, it was just dairy. So, pizza, ice cream, some of my favorite foods. But really, what did it for me was health. Because
Mhm.
even prior to my dietary transition, I had had these undiagnosed digestive symptoms. So heartburn, acid reflux, bloating, gas, even vomiting in the middle of the night. It was just like
Ooh.
really horrible. And my health team could never get to the bottom of it. I did all the tests possible. And I just, yeah, one day I woke up in the morning after a night of really bad acid reflux and went back to my naturopath. And she said, let's try a food sensitivity test because I'd never done
Mhm.
that before. So I found out I was sensitive to dairy among, a few other things and did a 4 month cleanse of dairy. So I came to the end of that 4 months in 2018 and thought, I can do this. Like 4 months wasn't that hard. So I guess I'm vegan now. So after you do diet, everything else is so much easier. Your clothes, your makeup, personal products, because all of those things are usually pretty easily labeled vegan.
Hmm.
So yeah, so April 2018 is kind of the date that I count from. So it's been almost 7 years now.
Wow. Mine is April 2017 that I fully
Hey,
transitioned to vegan. So
very
very close.
close.
And my story is similar in that having sensitivities to things, just having I had skin issues and rosacea and eczema. And I was like looking, I noticed how I would have flare-ups after eating certain things. And I started Googling that. And I noticed how like dairy kept coming up as something like,
Mm,
try giving a break on certain things. And so I did an experiment and I gave up dairy for 30 days. And my skin was getting better, but also like I realized like my sinuses weren't bothering me, like just this overall sense of well-being. Like didn't realize dairy was making me feel bad in ways because it was like my normal operating system. And then when I gave up the dairy, I felt better. And I started looking up dairy-free recipes and came across forks over knives and all kinds of vegan recipes and wanting to eat better because my mom died of a heart attack in 2007 and my dad had heart disease and also
wow.
diabetes and just really loved the creativity of all these like things because whenever I thought of vegan, I always thought of like limitations. Like
Yes,
what it
yeah.
ended up doing is opening up this whole new world for me. And then it was kind of like I watched a documentary. I watched Vegucated, where they showed a little bit of the stuff that happens in the factory farming, but they kind of showed all these different things and it was like an experiment with this group of people in New York City, just learning about the different parts of veganism and trying it out. And there was this part of me that wanted to be vegan, but I just didn't know how to get like my family wasn't going to be want to do it, my husband, our kids, like I knew. And I just eventually after a couple years, I just bought more cookbooks. I started transitioning more and I never really was an egg person. So that wasn't so much of an issue for me, but it was like the baked goods putting in eggs and stuff. But you learn how to do it. And over
Yeah.
after a couple years of just little by little, I was just at the point where I was ready to fully commit. Fish was the last thing I gave up. It was like sushi, like we'd go out for sushi. So like, I was more into like salmon at the time and things like that, but giving it up wasn't, when you get to that point where you feel ready, and that's what I tell people, it's, a gradual transition, I think makes it more sustainable.
Yeah, yeah, and I should also mention over that 11 years, I was watching all the documentaries, reading
Hmm.
all the books, following the influencers, and that really helped because when you consume these things, you can see other people are doing it. They're doing
Yeah.
what your North Star is, what your aspirational self wants to do, and you see that it's possible. And yeah, now that I'm almost 7 years in, I like every vegan I know says, I wish I had done this sooner. Because of
Yeah.
course, before we even start, it just seems so hard because animal products are just such a dominant part of what you think you have to eat 3 times a day or more. But yeah, as you said, once you realize, yes, you are eliminating those products, but there's this whole entire plant world of food that like I'd never been exposed to growing up. Like my parents didn't cook with these foods. But yeah, you just realize there's so many protein sources like beans, lentils, tofu, tempeh, like, and so on. If you
Hmm.
don't like the substitutes, I mean, some of those are great too. But yeah, like, and then just like the plethora of vegetables I eat now. I hated vegetables when I was a kid. It was really hard, but now that it's just like a normal part of the diet, yeah, it's like, again, I wish I had done this sooner.
Yeah, and your taste buds change too. And that's something I tell
100%.
people, like everyone, like dairy is like one of the hardest things to give up because we all love cheese and ice cream.
Yeah, and a
There's
lot of the baked goods too. Like there's, I don't know about your city, but like we're lucky here in Vancouver to have several vegan bakeries here, so you can go there to get your fix. Whereas, yeah, maybe in some other places you might not even have very many or any plant-based options at a bakery. So for
Yeah,
sure.
well, when I moved from Brooklyn back in 2023, and New York City is loaded with vegan stuff, but
Yeah,
at the time when I became vegan in 2017, it still was hard to find certain products in the grocery stores. Like I would have to go to like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or some other specialty store to look for these products for certain things like, dairy-free ice cream. And then I would say around 2021, I really started finding things like vegan cheese at the regular grocery store. And
nice.
and so like for me that really shows just how much things are shifting and changing. And even
Yeah,
outside of New York City, like I live now like an hour and a half from New York City, and the area I live in, there's like a lot of places that have vegan options. Like there's some
great.
coffee shops that have, vegan pastries, and not just like one or two, but like, a lot. So, um,
Yeah,
so it's definitely expanding and growing, but I think, the biggest challenge is if you're the only one doing it, it can also especially delay, which is why I created this platform to begin with, to support people and their journey. And that's why I love talking to people like you, because I feel like it's important for people to hear another person's story and journey uh, going into veganism. And you find a way, and it's about following the path that feels right to you.
yeah, amazing. Agree.
So now I want to change direction. What inspired you to create your business?
So yeah, I started this business in 2020. So prior to that, I had closed my first business, the
Mhm.
public relations agency, and I was sort of just freelancing for about a year and a half, wondering what my next career path was going to be. I was, researching various career roles and yeah, and was living as a vegan finally after I'd closed that business. And I did some researching initially with vegan media outlets to see if maybe if I can be a writer for some of these. And I found not all of them pay. And the
Hmm.
few that do, unless you're a full-time writer, you're maybe only a contributing writer and making, a part-time income. So I sat down to meditate at the end of 2019 on a Friday, and I was kind of discouraged by that research. And then I just got that booming intuitive voice. It said, "You're vegan and you will always be a writer. So put those things together." So I know enough times when I ignore my intuition, it'll just come back to me stronger later and even like give me like don't like ideas for the brand name and things like that. So I went, all right, I hear the call. So I threw up a service page on my personal website, which is still the website that I use now, and just started tapping into my network and asking folks, who do you know who runs a vegan company who needs a writer or is looking for a writer? And that's how I started this business. Thanks to the pandemic, I had more time on my hands. So I started taking courses in book editing and formatting because I
Hmm.
thought to myself, books are the longest piece of content I could possibly work on. And I've always been fascinated about just that whole publishing process. So that got me started working with authors. So yeah, kind of fast forward 5 years, yeah, still now working with authors. I've ghostwritten two books now, which I love that process. And then on the vegan side, I've niched down even more in 2025 from just working with vegan companies to folks who are actually vegan. So, I can do sort of executive assistant work for them, content writing, public relations. So I've brought kind of that PR aspect back, so I can help folks get into the media or speaking at various events if that's what they want to do. And I've done some consulting as well. So I am glad that I kind of branched off and formed a few other revenue streams because AI has really affected my work in the last couple of years. I'm just not getting as much requests for writing as I used to when I first started.
That's great that you've been able to add more to your services. And it's just amazing how like we can pair up our passion for veganism with the work that we do and create this whole other combination of services by following those passions.
Yeah, yeah, I feel incredibly lucky to be able to do yeah, to do this work, and it is a bit of a risk narrowing down as I said to working just with vegans instead of vegan companies, but I think that's where my superpower is. A lot of my best clients have been vegans, and there it kind of sets me apart from other folks who again may just have a more general criteria for the clients they want to work with. Maybe it's like sustainability, or it's yeah, the company needs to be cruelty free in some way, but they don't have that niche where it's I only work with vegans. And so yeah, I'm hoping it works in my favor. If any folks are listening and yeah, and need somebody like me, yeah, just I love to work with vegans, and that's my whole mission right now is to create more visible vegans so that we have more folks that people can look up to who are vegan. So that's the whole mission behind this.
And I think that's a fabulous mission. And my next question for you is, what makes vegan marketing different from other types of marketing?
Yeah, great question. I think every vegan business owner sort of has to choose how much of the vegan message they're going to put into it. So on the one hand, some folks choose, I'm not even going to mention the V word at all. If anything, let's say it's a food product or you sell food, we're just going to say plant-based
Hmm.
in order to attract more consumers or as many consumers as they can to their brand. And I get that, but I do think that again, if as a business you want to stand out, that's the whole like you need to have a way to stand out in your marketing if you want to sell whatever it is you have. So by actually putting in vegan messaging into or the vegan message into your communications, I think that gives you a kind of a way to stand out. Yes, it may turn off some people, but also maybe the folks who don't agree with that message aren't your ideal customer. So I think yeah, it's a decision that everybody who runs a vegan business needs to make. But I think again, like look at the big ones like Beyond Meat and Oatly. Like they started out targeting to vegan consumers because
Hmm.
vegan consumers are some of the most loyal customers on the planet. Once we love a product, we're going to buy it over and over, and we're going to tell our family and friends who aren't even vegan. And that's what's led to the growth of some of these bigger brands. And so I think yeah, you shouldn't shy away from the vegan message. That's what I would say to folks who are starting out and kind of wondering, yeah, like what their marketing strategy should be.
I think that's a really great point. And to share an example of why it's important to stand out is you want the vegans to find you.
Yeah.
Whenever I go to like a farmer's market or there's a lot of like farmers markets and festivals, and I live in the Hudson Valley area of New York State. That's between New York City and Albany. And so there's a lot of cute towns. There's a lot of farmers markets and stuff. Whenever I go to these places, I'm just scanning and looking for any sign that says vegan. Right? Because that's where I'm going to immediately go to. And so by standing out, yeah, you may not attract people who are not into vegan, but you're going to find your people. But there's a vegan croissant company business here in the Hudson Valley. I'm going to give them a shout out. The Little Loaf Company. They have these vegan croissants, and they just opened up a brick and mortar store in New Paltz, New York. And you can go to any of the local farmers markets, and there's always a line. And the majority of the people are not even vegan. It's just people want
Yep.
really good croissants, right? So,
Amazing.
but that's the thing, right? If the product is really good, people aren't going to care if it's vegan, and you're going
Yeah.
to make sure, and vegans talk too. So if a vegan is excited about a product, like I love their product, so I just gave them a shout out here. um Vegans talk, and people are always communicating, and there's a lot of Facebook groups for vegans in like whatever city, right? So if you're traveling to that city, you'll ask, hey, what's good in this area? And where can I get good vegan food? And so vegans talk, they get excited to share products that are really good. And if people really like the product, they're not going to care if it's vegan.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, the number one thing is you just got to have a really good product or service. And then yeah, and if it is, um, then you don't have to be afraid to use the V word.
Yeah.
Because if yeah, because then people will just support you anyway. And then bonus, you will get all the vegan consumers coming to you. So yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get the discomfort of standing out. But I feel like once you get more comfortable with standing out, it's like building that muscle. You start to embrace it more. Um, so what has your journey been with, as a woman in business and a woman of color in business? There can be a lot of additional challenges that one could face. So, do you mind sharing a little bit more about your experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been pretty lucky that there are several groups for women in business here in Vancouver, or you can even find these online too, that I've joined and that have been super supportive. Because yeah, I know if you're a business looking for investment, only 4% is still going to women, and the percentage of that going to women and women of color are even lower. And so, yeah, I think it's super important to support other women in business because we just need more visibility. And actually, I learned this stat from Jenny Stojkovic, who runs the Vegan Women's Summit. She said when you look at the companies that have received investment, women-owned businesses outperform male-owned businesses by 68%. It's something
Wow.
crazy like that. And then as a woman of color, like I didn't even, because I've grown up here in Canada, of course, I've been exposed to Filipino culture because of my parents, but I honestly did not see myself as a woman of color until conversations about diversity and inclusion started happening around 2018, so around the time I closed my agency. And I realized, oh, yeah, people are seeing me as this. And
Hmm.
it may or may not be the reason why they hire me. So it's been really interesting. Yeah, just kind of looking at myself in this different light, and especially as a vegan woman of color too. That's like double minority.
Yeah.
But especially during the pandemic when there were a lot of people, how do I even say it? Yeah, just a lot of Asian racism against Asian people, and a lot of people becoming vocal about that and needing to talk about it. Yeah, I kind of really learned to embrace my superpowers. Like being a double minority is a superpower. I may be attractive to vegan business owners because I'm vegan and I know I know like I have the psyche of a vegan. And so I can understand their product or service right away and be able to communicate that maybe better than a non-vegan can. And then same thing with being a woman of color, just knowing, yeah, kind of the way that yeah, somebody else who's diverse or a racial minority maybe may have been brought up. Or the yeah, or like just like advertising, like seeing that or not seeing that. So yeah, so I think it's taken me a while to kind of learn that, but I think it's a really important, yeah, lens that I have as an adult today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, feeling like a minority, I can say just from, being a vegan, and also being Jewish, I've, experienced different things. So when you feel like you're different in a situation, and then being a woman on top of all those things, it can, I feel like those experiences help us see the world differently,
Yeah.
and want to connect with people differently and support others differently. And so I like how you frame it as being a superpower, embracing whatever those differences are, because they can really be a great asset.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's about empathy and being able to connect with others who maybe, again, don't necessarily look like you or have the same life experiences. But yeah, just being able to relate to people who are struggling, and then also seeing like the levels of power that exist in the world,
Yeah.
and realizing you might not ever reach the level of white male privilege that that a man might have. But yeah, yeah, I think it, on the other hand, yeah, helps you create community with other people. So yeah.
And also just support women supporting other women too. I think sometimes there's environments where women, can work against each other and those feelings of competition. And it doesn't have to be that way. Women
Nope.
can support one another and help one another. We all have different experiences. And instead of looking at it as taking away or preventing someone from having having success, by working together, we can all help each other have success.
100%.
Yeah, so what are some tips that you have for women who are either thinking of starting a business or maybe are in the early stages of a business and they're still trying to get things going?
Yeah, great question. I think mentorship is super important. So kind of connecting to the last question. Um, yes, you can run a solo business. I mean, my business is solo completely, but if you don't want to feel as alone, because especially if you're starting out, yeah, it can be tough to get yourself out there. It's so important to find either or both, a mentor to kind of guide you through that process. And yeah, and there's several women's business groups based either here in Vancouver or across Canada that I've taken advantage of, where they set you up with a mentor for roughly 6 months, or yeah, 6 to 12 months. And that can be super helpful, not only just to get advice from somebody who's been there, but yeah, to kind of just have somebody be a sounding board. Like I was really lucky when I started my first business that my sister was an entrepreneur first. And
Oh,
so I
wow.
had her kind of just to bounce ideas off of, even though we were in completely different fields. And yeah, and then the other thing besides having a mentor or coach or somebody like that is a community. So you and I are both members of Vegan Business Tribe, which is so unique. Like this is the only
Hmm.
network in the world that has, yeah, members from everywhere. But we're all vegans and running businesses. Like you can't get that anywhere unless there happens to be a local group that somebody started. Yeah, and then the other group that I'm a part of that I co-host with somebody else is Veg Networking Canada, and we meet about once a month. And part of that is interviewing either a vegan who's coming into the group, or a guest who may not necessarily be vegan, but they're running or working for a plant-based business, and yeah, and just getting their stories. And we throw all those up on YouTube. So that's been super helpful for me. It's been a source of clients. So that can be great. That's the benefit of networking, getting more customers or clients. But again, also that sense of community and being able to trust people and having other people around you that you can, yeah, kind of share your challenges and get advice. So yeah, that would be my biggest piece of advice for women.
I agree with you 100% because I've had my business for I guess 8 years now coming up at the end of this year.
Congratulations.
But thank you. But it took me a while to like it started off as just I wanted to do coaching and focus on, confidence and helping women eliminate people pleasing. But I wasn't sure how to convey that, and there's just so many things to figure out as a business, and then not having the right support, I think also held me back for a little bit, just because I felt so lost with myself in the direction. And when you find that right community, and I found a couple communities that helped me for a little bit, but then I still needed something else. And I wanted to combine veganism with my work, but I wasn't sure how. And then in October of 2023, that's when it hit me, oh, the confident vegan. So, and then
Yeah, I love it.
thank you. And then not long after that, I found the Vegan Business Tribe, and that has been a game changer. Finding that right support, making amazing collaborations, and just learning from other people and supporting one another. Um, when you find that support, you can learn so much. And the other advice too, I just wanted to add from my experience is I learned you can either look at things as a waste of time, all the things you tried out, but what I realized is what didn't work for me. And by learning what didn't work for me, I learned what did work for me.
Yeah.
And you looking back now, um, like there's so much value in those hard lessons. And when you find that right support, I feel like it kind of helps you navigate those challenges because every business is going to go through various challenges, especially in the beginning when you're trying to find your identity as a business owner and how you're going to market all of that. And so, yeah, support I think is the most valuable thing that one could invest in.
Yeah. And I mean, you could give this advice to men too, but I think it's, yeah, again, women are generally more emotional, right? And so it's even more important that that we combat those feelings of loneliness or isolation or I'm doing it wrong, with surrounding ourselves by other people who've been there or just yeah, just are there to listen to you about the challenges you're having. And yeah, and I think as women, yeah, it's just yeah, even more important that we surround ourselves with yeah, these positive communities.
I agree. And I think too, the other thing is, at least I can speak for myself and some other women who I've spoken to, is sometimes we don't feel like we're being taken seriously. And maybe it's
Yeah,
because of the emotional components. Not saying that men, not all men don't take women seriously, but we do have there we do have that challenge where maybe in the past, in the past especially, we weren't necessarily taken very seriously. Now it's very different, but there's still those residual feelings that we can, be projecting upon ourselves, like no one's going to take me seriously. And again, like the work what I do with confidence and people pleasing, so many women struggle with these things. And so by being able to connect with other women who understand what that's like, it can really help uplift you and help you feel like you are possible because in order to make things happen, we have to believe in ourselves. And if we feel
yeah,
like we're not capable of doing it, then we're going to believe that. And when we are with other women who we see are being successful, then we can see, oh, it is possible.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to Jenny Stojkovic, who runs Vegan Women's Summit, because she every week posts about a successful female CEO on LinkedIn. So highly
Hmm.
recommend you follow her on LinkedIn because
Yeah, I
and
will.
yeah, I'll share every single post that she does because that's how we get more visibility to women who are successful. And then again, yeah, as you said, we can see yeah, maybe a little bit of ourselves in their journey because we know somebody else has done it. So
Absolutely. And I think too, when we see people who are so successful, we don't realize that at one point they had a starting point also.
yeah,
Everyone had a starting point. And so it takes time to develop things. And yeah, by seeing how what someone else is capable of doing, you can see that in yourself.
yeah, agree.
Sandra, it's been so great chatting with you. Before we wrap up, are there any resources that you would like to recommend for viewers?
Yeah, so there's my book, Vegan Marketing Success Stories. So it was published in 2022. So I know it's a few years old now, but I think it's still a pretty great guide. It's the only vegan marketing book in the world. So for any, yeah, vegan business owners who maybe are just starting out in their marketing strategy, it'll give you all the possible tactics you can integrate into your strategy, or even if you're not vegan but you've got a marketing role at a vegan company, I think it would help somebody like that. Again, just learn from all of the stories that are in the book. You can, yeah, check it out on my website. It's just with my name, sandranomoto.com. And yeah, if you're really into vegan marketing, every month in my newsletter, so I put it out the first Tuesday of every month, I sort of do this roundup of all of the marketing wins in the vegan world that I see online, and I put them all in my newsletter. Um, yeah, and I give chapter one of my book digitally for free to all the subscribers. So if you're into that, please go to my website and sign up. And yeah, I'd say those are my two resources that I have to offer.
And they're both very valuable. I've subscribed to your mailing list, so
Oh, thank you.
very great, insightful tips on there for sure. You can learn a lot from there, and I'll make sure to include the links to all of that. And yeah, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
I'm pretty much Sandra Nomoto everywhere. Most
Okay.
active on LinkedIn. My Instagram was hacked last year, so I'm just
Oh
getting
no.
started back again on Instagram. It's fun. So I'm at the real Sandra Nomoto there. I'm hoping I can get my original username back. We just have to get that fraud account taken down. But yeah, just search Sandra Nomoto and you should be able to find me.
Okay, great. And I'll also include some links too down below. So if you want to look up Sandra, you can find her easily. Well, it was so great catching up with you on here. Thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedule to
You're
just
so
share
welcome.
your experience and your wisdom. And thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye for now.
Bye.